Star Trek, now a priority at Skydance's own Paramount. Hi, Kurt. With the Paramount merger now finalized, Skydance is making Star Trek great again. At least, let's hope so. Following years of subpar content, Dana Goldberg, now co-chair of Paramount and chair of Paramount Television, made it clear Star Trek is a priority across the company. So, because I was thinking maybe they would think, man, this piss poor production, it's really ruined the reputation of the brand. Maybe we should just put it to rest for a little while and maybe bring it back in 10 years or something like that, you know. But I guess maybe not. This statement came during the new leadership's first press event in Los Angeles, following the studio's high-profile acquisition and reorganization. Notably, as a result of the merger and this event, the newly formed company's stock has surged nearly 50%. Well, that's nice. Hey, what's wrong with this picture? Somebody's missing. Well, at least Spock's there, you know. Yeah. We get word via Deadline about Skydance's Star Trek plans. David Ellison's Skydance has been involved with the franchise since Star Trek Into Darkness, which pretty much destroyed that attempt at Star Trek, because that was a god-awful movie, giving the company over a decade of financial and production ties to the brand. Now, with Ellison as CEO of the newly formed Paramount, a Skydance corporation, Deadline says Star Trek will be in-house and under direct control. Well, that's interesting. Because if that is indeed the case, that means Alex Kurtzman and his secret hideout production company are out. Yeah. When the contract expires next year, per the rumors. However, what is not clear is whether Skydance's comments at the press event pertain to Star Trek movies alone, or if they also include the streaming shows, which Kurtzman has been developing. Deadline adds that Paramount will no longer share profits on major franchises like Star Trek, Top Gun, and Transformers, choosing to fully fund them in-house and cut out outside partners. This not only gives Skydance full creative control, but it also means Paramount intends to keep all the potential financial gains or profits from its big franchises. Again, not clear if it includes the Star Trek streaming shows. Update. In the Hollywood Reporter's report on the press event regarding Star Trek, their report says Star Trek will be looked at holistically rather than siloed off between different parts of the company, which means that Paramount plans to treat the entire Star Trek franchise as one unified brand across film, television, streaming, and other media, rather than handling each part separately. Update number 2. A reporter for The Hollywood Reporter tweeted, yes, it's known that new Paramount will look to refurbish Star Trek. Well, that is good news because that's exactly what it needs. Yeah. So what's in development? According to the report, 2 Star Trek films are actively in the works. And there's been a rumor about one that was supposed to be this prequel. I'm so sick of prequels. And I don't know. It sounds like you could do it on the cheap, you know. Maybe that's the selling point. But I don't know. As far as the Star Trek 4 for the Kelvin stuff with Chris Pine, I think that's been dead a while. Maybe they're going to try to get the band back together for something else, you know, but don't know. So anyway, original character film, directed by Andor's Toby Haynes, written by Seth Grant-Smith, with Simon Kinberg and J.J. Abrams producing. So, yeah, still going with that. This version introduces new characters, a new crew, and narrative direction. Well, that's what a TV series should be. You know. So, all right, good on them to try to make up their own take rather than constantly try to use well-established classic characters and all that. But That's the thing about what do you do about Star Trek? Scrap everything, start over. You have a new starship with a new crew on their mission, and they're beyond the previous eras of Star Trek, not the original series, not Next Generation, and move forward. And there you go. They got a mission. They got to explore something. There's some phenomena they got to investigate. And that's just the first episode. Then, you got a Star Trek show. That's how that works. Well, now there's this other film, Kirk and Spock Return. Another project reunites the classic ensemble with Abrams producing again and Steve Yockey on script duties. So I guess this would be the one where they try to reunite Chris Pine and stuff. I liked the cast. I did like that. The first movie I had fun with. That one. Into Darkness destroyed the whole thing. That was so god-awful. Despite the cast still being pretty good. Star Trek Beyond was, much weaker and, kind of stupid compared to the first one. But at least it wasn't Into Darkness. So it's got that going for it. If Star Trek Beyond had been their second movie, they'd probably be in much better shape. Even though it just wasn't as good. But, So anyway, Josh Greenstein and Dana Goldberg, now studio co-chairs, outlined a roadmap to 15 theatrical films per year with a near-term goal of 20. Star Trek sits alongside other top priorities like Top Gun 3 and A Quiet Place Part 3. They also confirmed a shift away from made-for-streaming movies like Section 31. Theatrical releases and major IP are the studio's focus, with the goal to strategically scale the amount of content for our streaming service as well. So maybe that means more Star Trek shows, as it's known that various producers are pitching Skydance new ideas. Well, they're still in love with shared universe type approaches for a franchise, so you can have a film series and a TV series, which technically they'd already done even way back in the 80s, because The Voyage Home came out at the time Next Generation was getting off the ground. And then you had Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6, and Next Generation was rolling on television. So, yeah, you can do that. They don't necessarily have to be connected to one another other than they're both Star Trek entities and that sort of thing, but they're separated by time and stuff like that. Yeah, that's doable. And some people say, I just like the shows and they don't watch the movies, or I just like the movies and they don't watch the show. That can happen too. But either way, you've got a functioning brand, provided you have someone who can write it. But right now you don't. Under Kurtzman, Strange New World still has 2 seasons, kinda. And Academy, that's dead on arrival. That just looks terrible. It's supposed to have 2 seasons. Well, okay. I mean, unless each season is only like 4 episodes. So that would mean no new Star Trek shows under Skydance until 2027 at the earliest. Well, that's earlier than I would have thought, But look, it's one of the, legendary brands that they do own in total. And they got to have some IP to sell. So they got to look for some serious talent. Someone new, not I mean, I guess they're stuck with J.J. Abrams for whatever reason. Okay. But you got to get some actual writers who understand science fiction and that sort of thing. At least have that concept in it. And maybe, just maybe, you got something. Of the franchises that have been destroyed, I still submit Star Trek is the easiest one to save, because you can just forget about all that other stuff. Star Wars, what they did to Skywalker and all that, that's tough. That is tough to come back from. Doctor Who, where they just completely wrecked his entire continuity and everything. Now, it's time-traveling characters, so yeah, you could fix it through something like that. But for Star Trek, you don't even have to do that. You can just start over and just never mention that secret hideout crap again.